Coming up on Tech News today, why Samsung has engaged the services of a small blonde child to promote its phone. Also, nobody's using Facebook anymore. And is there a Foursquare phone in our future? All that more coming up.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by CashFly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Tech News Today for Monday, March 4th, 2013, SimCity Eve. Tech News Today is brought to you by Squarespace, the all-in-one platform that makes it fast and easy to create a professional website, blog, portfolio, and now an online store. Check out their new commerce solution so you can start selling stuff immediately. For a free trial and 10% off your first purchase on new accounts, go to squarespace.com and use offer code TNT3. And by GoToMeeting with HD Faces by Citrix, the powerfully simple way to meet and collaborate with colleagues and clients from anywhere. You can share the same screen and see each other face-to-face with HD video conferencing, even from an iPad. Sign up for your 30-day free trial today. Visit GoToMeeting.com, click on the Try It Free button, and use promo code TNT. Welcome to Tech News Today. I'm Tom Merritt.
I'm Sarah Lane.
I'm Maya Zakhtar.
And I'm Jason Howell.
And this is the show we keep you up to date on the most important stories in the tech world. Try to put them in some context for you, starting with the top 10 stories of the day in the news feeds. Samsung posted a video in advance of its March 14th announcement in New York City, which is widely expected to be the announcement of the Samsung Galaxy S4. The video shows a young boy named Jeremy being entrusted with a box. You can pretty much guess the rest. It's fairly predictable. For good or ill, expect Jeremy to return on stage in New York 10 days from now.
Apple's iWatch is real and it's spectacular and may be unveiled this year, at least according to Bloomberg, who is also reporting Apple has up to 100 employees working on the device. Although rumors of an Apple TV have long been swirling, the TV business is stuck with low margins, a long replacement cycle, and high costs. The watch business has higher margins and growth. So is Tim Cook following the money? Looks that way.
Maybe it's the same product, the TV watch.
Yeah.
If you tried to log into Evernote this weekend, you might have noticed you had to reset your password. Evernote said it was hacked on Saturday. User emails and encrypted passwords were leaked. Evernote chose to reset all of its users' passwords for safety, but also says that payment information does not appear to be compromised.
IDC's worldwide quarterly mobile phone tracker report is out. They expect 918.6 million smartphones to be sent out over the course of this year. That's equal to about 50.1% of total mobile phones shipped by vendors. That puts smartphones as the most common for the first time. The report also predicts China will grow smartphone shipments by 52% by 2018, but its market share will drop during the same period to 30.2% because of increases in markets like Brazil and India.
Apple's been dealt with a pretty big setback in its patents battle with Samsung. On Friday, a federal judge slashed a $1.05 billion jury award by more than 40% and set a new trial to determine damages. You might remember Apple won the award last year against Samsung in the U.S. in a very high-profile part of a number of trials worldwide between the two companies. Apple had convinced the jury that Samsung, which in 2012 had overtaken Apple as the global smartphone leader, infringing on its iPhone and iPad patents.
Pour some out for the 7200 RPM 2.5-inch hard drive. Seagate confirmed with AnandTech that the company will stop producing 7200 RPM 2.5-inch drives by the end of the year. The fast and small drives are facing stiff competition from SSDs. However, Seagate will be working on hybrid drives, so keep an eye out for revisions to the momentous XT line.
Facebook's inviting the press over to its Menlo Park, California headquarters this Thursday at 10 a.m. Pacific to discuss, quote, a new look for News Feed. TechCrunch's Josh Constein reported on a new version of News Feed back in mid-January, which included big photo tiles overlaid with text.
For the very first time, an independent film is being released on a console platform rather than through traditional movie theaters or DVDs. Pulp, which is a comedy about a struggling comic book publisher recruited by the police to bust a crime syndicate, will be available on Xbox 360 Live for Xbox 360 Live subscribers. Creator Adam Hamdy says that the avenues to allow British independent movies to get audiences have gotten narrower. Microsoft says it will be distributing more films this way in the future.
WM power user which these guys have been around for a while, stands for Windows Mobile Power User. Okay, WM Power User spotted a job posting by Microsoft for a software development engineer, indicating that Microsoft is targeting the holidays for the next major release of Windows Phone, and that would be on schedule. The posting says Microsoft is, quote, getting ready for our next release targeting the holiday of this year. Mary Jo Foley over at ZDNet and of our own Windows Weekly has reported Microsoft will make 2 minor bug fix releases before Windows Phone Blue. A holiday release would fit the pattern of that yearly release schedule for Windows Phone.
An update to Safari means Apple's web browser won't let you use an out-of-date version of Adobe Flash. If you try, you'll see a dialog window telling you that your version of Flash Player does not include the latest security updates and has been blocked. From there, you can click to download the latest Flash. Adobe just updated Flash last week to patch 3 vulnerabilities.
I experienced that today when on the Mac Mini that I use for Skype. I launched the Twit site, which has Flash, and it was like, nope, you can't watch that. You got to update your Adobe Flash. So I did. Thank you. It's a good thing. And should keep that stuff secure. Anyway, this episode of Tech News Today brought to you by Squarespace. It's fast, it's easy, and it is the best way you want to make a professional website that adapts on the fly. It's easier to use than ever. I love the new Squarespace. It's not even new anymore. It's been out so long. It's just the way Squarespace works now. What you see is what you get. When I go in to edit stuff, I'm just looking at the page, and then I make some tweaks, and they're there. They're saved. And they also just added, what is new, a powerful e-commerce solution integrated to work with every Squarespace template, allowing you to sell anything, physical stuff, digital goods. If you've got ebooks, but you also have printed version of your books, you can sell them both through the store. You get a fast account setup so you can accept payments right away, credit or debit cards. One interface for order management. You can track orders, provide customer email updates, print shipping labels, add coupons, all the stuff you want to do with your store. And Squarespace Commerce is included with the business plan subscription. There's new plans, $24 a month when you sign up for a year or $30 for a monthly plan. It's included, so you get the commerce as part of that monthly fee. Squarespace gives you your website the best mobile experience too, whether you're using the commerce solution or not. It's fast, it's easy to use, it's exceptionally well designed, and it adapts to the screen that your visitors are looking at. So your site looks right on a little 3.5-inch screen or a big old 32-inch screen. Squarespace is an all-in-one platform integrating all your website needs, from domains to design, development, commerce, hosting, and 24/7 customer support. For a free trial, go to squarespace.com, sign up for a free account, no credit card needed. You don't have to give them anything except an email address to start using it. If you decide to purchase it after the free trial, use the offer code TNT3 and get 10% off your first purchase on new accounts. Don't forget about free domain registrations, too. You pay for the annual plan, you get a free domain registration. That is squarespace.com. And use that offer code TNT. We thank TNT3. Don't forget the 3. We thank them for their support of Tech News Today. All right, let's kick off discussing the stories of the day and welcome Lance Ulanoff, editor-in-chief of Mashable.com, to the show. Good to have you back, Lance. You've been a busy man.
I'm always busy, but thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. Great
to have you back. Let's start by talking about this Samsung Galaxy S4 teaser video. Now, Jason, I forgot to tip you off on this, okay, but I would like to play the video a little bit. And see, maybe I'm just jaded by this stuff, but I think this is so predictable and so, I don't know, kind of annoying.
Bizarre.
It shows a,
Don't look up. You don't know who it is.
Yeah. It's
a tiny adult.
a big fancy car driving up to the office building, and oh, look at the guest. The guest is a little blonde-haired boy named Jeremy, and he is now going to be the secret messenger for Samsung. And it's all the jokes you would expect, right? Everything you're going to expect. He gets really excited and he wants to look in the box. They let him look in the box.
What's inside? Look. It's a blinding
head.
light. That would have been better. And also, what kind of accent does that kid have? I could not figure it out.
Anything about it? You got it?
Got it. Totally top secret.
He's got classic little boy accent.
Look, my retinas are burned out.
And then afterwards, he goes home with the box. They just let him go home to his bedroom, and the next door neighbor girl is like mocking him from outside. Mm-hmm. So we're going to see this kid coming up on stage March 14th. You can bet he's going to bring out the box. They're going to make a big deal, and they're going to open it up. Maybe his retinas will be burned out again, and we'll see the Samsung Galaxy S4. I actually am more excited about what the Galaxy S4 might be. Super AMOLED display. Yeah. I'm hearing like close to 5 inches. I mean, 13 megapixel camera.
Everybody, apparently phablets are cool. Mobile World Congress, there were tons of really big phones because the market has said we can handle them. I never thought that would be the case. I always had a preference for the smaller phones. You know, the iPhone 5, I really love the size and shape of it, but I see more and more of these things out there, and Samsung has had really incredible success with the Galaxy and the Note 2, and so there's no stopping it. I just hope that they now have everybody's attention, right? You know, it's not like, oh, will they do something cool? They tend to. So I'm hoping they really do something exciting with the design, that it's not just simply an upgrade, that it has something special about it. Obviously, it won't be a flexible display, but just how thin they can get it. The resolution of the screen is almost getting to a point of being ridiculous. So I'm looking for more, and of course the power, you know, the basic performance of the phone.
Yeah, looking at that teaser video, I'm thinking they could probably boast about the features that are coming up. They could show that weird silhouette of like a tiny sliver, and then you get these really dark and shiny little pieces about it. So they had to do something different. It's like, if we got this little kid who's running around with the box. I mean, I don't think that at this point you can constantly sell these phones on specs anymore, because they are just kind of like, oh, it's got this 8-core processor. What can I do with that, really? It seems like Samsung is focused on... They're really focused on the experience. When they showed off that 2-hour presentation for the S3, they were showing how many gestures it supports, how you could turn it over to make it do not disturb mode. A whole lot of features that you want to use, not necessarily focused on the specs. And maybe Jeremy's just one of these extra things of like, oh, I want to be attached to this phone. Although I absolutely hate the app.
But it's almost like it's not. Obviously, this phone isn't being marketed to kids like Jeremy. It's almost parents who have kids like Jeremy. I'm not really sure, you know, because the specs. You're right. I look at specs like this, and I'm like, looks great. You know, like getting better all the time. But they are nice specs. I mean, this is going to be a nice phone.
I think the kid is kind of a mistake. Also, because when you have a kid on stage at an event like this, you know, the journalists don't really know what to do. Like if the kid messes up. Or if it's just awkward, you don't want to pick on the kid. You know, no one wants to pick on a little kid. So then everybody feels uncomfortable. You know, and I'm worried because the tone of that commercial or that teaser it has 2 tones. It has the one that's kind of like, oh, look, this is fun. It's a kid. It's the excitement of a kid. And then there's this sort of terror part. He's trying to keep a secret, and this girl screaming at him outside the home. So I'm like, they're not really preparing us the right way for this, but I don't think it'll really matter because I agree that the specs look good. The phone will probably be gorgeous, and you know, people are willing to. They have a built-in market that's going to upgrade when this thing's ready to go.
Worst thing since Wolf Boy, in my opinion. Let's look it up if you don't know what I'm talking about. Let's move on to Facebook. Now, they've got the announcement coming about Newsfeed later this week, but Nick Bilton had an interesting column about why maybe not as many people will care as used to. Yeah,
it remains to be seen exactly how the Newsfeed is about to change on Thursday, but Nick Bilton over at the New York Times, and this is actually an issue that I also have shared, talks about the fact that since personal profiles have been allowed subscribers, so people sort of follow you on Facebook rather than a two-way friendship, he was part of some sort of a suggested list. So he has like 400,000 subscribers. It's a huge number. He says, I am not seeing engagement on things I'm posting, like let's say an article to a recent New York Times piece that I've written, go up. I'm seeing engagement go down. Comments are going down. Likes are going down. What is the deal? He says, not only is Facebook not letting my stuff rise to the top, but it's possibly suppressing posts that I'm not actually paying that $7 to promote, which is, of course, a few months ago, something that Facebook rolled out to allow us to kind of shove some content in front of other people. And he's gotten quite a few responses from folks online. Some of it is, well, hey, maybe a lot of those subscribers are just spam anyway, and Facebook's getting smarter about weeding them out. That wouldn't really make sense unless his subscriber count goes down as well, but that might have something to do with it. Or more likely, people who are subscribing to feeds like Nick Bilton's are just subscribing to others as well. So they're liking the same amount of stuff, but they have more content to choose from. and it's just getting divvied up a little bit more. And of course, if you've got sponsored or promoted content at the top of any Facebook newsfeed, well, organic content is just going to get pushed below the fold that much more. Ayaz, do you think that, and Facebook has said, listen, we're not in the business of trying to keep people from seeing your content. That's not what we're doing. That doesn't help anybody. Does it seem a little fishy to you?
I mean, it just seems like that potentially it's a user behavior change. I mean, the thing is, if you're following hundreds of people at this point, because this follow thing is still relatively new, as you find this as a feature, you add and add and add, and you're probably seeing a lot more stories go by. And the thing is, there are posts I miss from my own friends because I'm subscribed to too many people. So what's going on is I'm missing all kinds of things. And perhaps by actually paying for the placement, that allows more people to see it. That's going to stay up there in that inorganic way because it's posted there. I just think it's just the nature of Facebook changing, because it used to just be all about your friends, and now it's following people you don't know and reading all this other content.
Lance, does it bother you that Facebook is so much less of a sort of a democratic, the popular stuff rises to the top because of the money aspect?
Yeah, well, I think they're developing a Google Plus problem. Google Plus started in the other end, and I have, on Google Plus, a huge number of followers, or whatever they're called, followers, because I was on a suggested list, and I get zero engagement, next to nothing. It's doesn't make any sense. But I think that those kinds of platforms are not really designed for a subscription-based model, because you can't really see all that stuff. Posts are really long, so people post really big images. That's all you see. I think that Facebook is not in the business of hiding your content, but they are in the business of being a business and making money. So just like Google search sort of has this issue where when you do a search and the first result you see is a sponsored result, as you were saying, it's really the same thing on Facebook now, where no matter what, your great piece of content on Facebook is probably going to, unless you're willing to pay, sit below something that has been promoted. So I almost want to say it's a natural thing. It's a natural evolution of the platform, but it is definitely changing, I think, how people perceive it, average users. And some are savvy and they realize that things are being pushed to them and they're frustrated. And others don't notice and they're just engaging more with this stuff that's being pushed to them. It's kind of a shame because, when I talk to average users of Facebook, they sense the changes and they feel like what they love the most about Facebook is kind of departing.
I was actually talking on KFWB radio this morning with one of the hosts, Penny Griego, and she was complaining about how they keep changing the news feed. I'm like, well, maybe you'll like the new change. And she's like, no, I want it to go back to the way I liked it. And I wonder if there's a little bit of that in what you're talking about, Lance. I also hear people saying, I don't know if it's true, that younger folks are not using Facebook, that it's not hip, it's not cool anymore. They've moved on to things like Snapchat and hilariously Instagram, I heard bandied about as an example. But maybe Facebook has just reached middle age, and this is the point where Facebook needs to decide what it's going to be to continue on, or it risks becoming another Friendster or MySpace down the road.
Well, change or die, right? Change or die.
Somebody mentioned in chat that, it's like they might have an active account, but they're just not going there. So sure, our subscriber numbers aren't going down, but engagement might be because people just aren't interacting. They've got these accounts that are sitting there not being used.
Yeah.
Well, Facebook has a lot of other people on it, not just, teenagers and young people. Although I was talking to a university professor about Facebook use, and one of the things she told me is that when students first come in, their Facebook use is very much about showing friends. It's about, sexy pictures, and it's kind of this real social environment. But over the 4 years, it kind of transforms into this sharing with family. Like it gets more serious, a little bit richer, but it probably also slows down a little bit because on the other side are all these Facebook, adults, people like parents, moms and dads using it. And maybe they're not in as big in numbers, but, I think they still have a huge base. But there is a question about whether or not the newest generation, maybe the most important, is continually flowing into Facebook.
I want to talk a little bit about Seagate. Now, let's be clear about what they are retiring. They actually announced at CES that they would do this, and now it's official. By the end of the year, they'll stop making 7,200 RPM, 2.5-inch drives. So the drives that are made for laptops, they're going to replace those with solid-state hybrid drives. Those are drives that have solid-state drives and magnetic drives combined. Now, even though those are only 5,400 RPM drives in there, they say that they are effectively faster than the 7,200 RPM drives, and they'll cost about $10 to $20 more than hard drives of the same capacity would normally cost. So you get the speed of a solid-state drive, but you get the capacity and the price advantage of a magnetic hard drive. AnandTech is where I first saw this story today, and Christian Votto over there said, in another 5 years, short of a new explosion in storage-intensive files, we will likely reach the point where everything becomes pure solid-state drive because the cost and performance will be better than any conventional or hybrid solutions. That would leave Seagate out. They're not doing any pure solid-state drives. But that begs the question to me, is this the beginning of the end of magnetic hard drives? Are we on the way to a cloud/solid-state future?
Oh, yes. Yes. I mean, isn't this a story of every kind of storage medium? Every single one of them has gone through this. And, I've written so many times about, this process of, I stored everything on 5-inch discs. I stored it on 3.5-inch floppies. I stored it on CD-ROMs. I stored it on DVDs. Each time the storage platform eventually migrates out of existence. Hard drives, ever since the appearance of solid-state drives, where there aren't moving parts, the writing has been on the wall. And one of the things that people told me some years ago when I was first working at PC Mag, they were like, you understand that hard drives will always fail. At some point, they will always fail. They're moving parts, and they will die. Solid-state drives have your refresh of, I'm not sure how many, tens of thousands of times they can refresh before they can't do it again. So they have a longer life. I think they have less, you drop them, they're not going to lose whatever information they have. They're not going to, the drive's not going to flip to the side. So yeah, this is going to happen. And I think 5 years, 7 years from now, we'll be going, do you have something that can read my hard drive?
That would be ridiculously weird. I mean, hard drives have been around for so long, but I'm not saying you're wrong. Monty in the chat room points out, though, that we still have tape. So maybe hard drives won't completely die. Ayaz, what do you think?
I don't think it's as dire as Lance is putting it. I'm thinking that people are always going to want a lot of storage when it comes to video files, and when you're moving to that model of like directly downloading a game or you're directly downloading a movie that they're getting larger and larger, you're going to need some dedicated hard drive space. Because I mean, we've seen that the trend happen where we're seeing like the Chromebook Pixel comes with 64 gigabytes as a maximum. I mean, iPads come with 128 gigabytes. People are learning to live with smaller spaces, but when it comes to, I think, desktops and you're talking about set-top boxes, they're more likely to keep the hard drives going. But on the laptop scene, hybrids and SSDs are definitely going to take over entirely because people are used to this smaller device. Even your phone having a lot less storage. I think people are just getting used to the idea of not storing things locally, but I think hard drives are always going to have a space, but maybe you're going to need an adapter eventually.
You have tape drives in the enterprise, right? Maybe that's the long-term future for the hard drive. It's in data centers. It's used for specialty purposes. It may be one of those things that doesn't go the way of the 8-track. It goes the way of vinyl. It becomes kind of cool to have your hard drive.
I can spin my hard drive. Wow, yeah. DJ Lance spinning his hard drive.
Exactly. Let's take a quick break. Thank our other sponsor for today's show, GoToMeeting with HD Faces by Citrix. When your entire team can get together, it's amazing what you can accomplish. Projects that takes weeks come down to days. You can get things done right there and then, sometimes within one meeting. But getting everybody together when they're all in different locations is time-consuming, expensive, and sometimes just plain impossible. So instead of moving the people, how about bringing the faces together? That's why we use GoToMeeting with HD Faces. Makes it easy for your entire team to get together online whenever you need to. You share the same screen with GoToMeeting. You stay on the same page, and the built-in HD video conferencing makes your online meeting like being in the same room. You see people, you look them in the eyes, you see their expressions, and it's simple to launch or join a meeting from anywhere using your computer, your smartphone, or even your tablet. You can present from an iPad. GoToMeeting's made it possible to meet from anywhere with these mobile apps. You can present from that iPad, and it's still winter, right? It's freaking cold out there for most people. If you could host a meeting from anywhere using GoToMeeting, where would it be and why? The reason I'm asking you this, if you put your answer on Twitter with the hashtag TNTiPad and the hashtag GoToMeeting, you got a chance to win a free iPad signed by Leo, courtesy of GoToMeeting. Remember, to be eligible to win, you need to tell us both where you would host your GoToMeeting from and why, using the hashtag TNTiPad and hashtag GoToMeeting. The contest ends Friday, March 15th at 11:59 p.m. Pacific time, and the winner will be announced in the Wednesday, March 20th episode of Tech News Today. Contest is only open to U.S. residents, and for rules and regulations, visit the inside.twit.tv blog. Don't forget, try GoToMeeting free today for 30 days. Don't wait for this special offer. Visit GoToMeeting.com, click the Try It Free button, use that promo code TNT. Remember, use the promo code TNT, and we thank GoToMeeting and Citrix for their support of Tech News Today. All right. Peter Kafka's got an interesting story up on All Things Today about how YouTube is selling all kinds of video ads, but nobody's making money off it?
Well, some people are making money, but not as much as they would like. Yeah, this really interesting story about the YouTube model and the fact that YouTube is, it's on the up and up. YouTube has a bunch of partners. They've more tightly tried to integrate their relationships with content producers who are putting out good stuff on a regular basis that is getting a lot of traction. But for those good views, the ad revenue that YouTube generates isn't really scaling at the same pace. And it depends on who you talk to, because it's not an all-in-one solution when you are a content creator who is working with YouTube. Some publishers say YouTube takes about 40% of the cut of the ads that it sells, so the content producer ends up getting about $2.50 for every 1,000 views their clips generate. You could say, okay, well, if a video generates 1 million views, which is a hit, they'd get about $2,500. Other publishers say, well, they get more like $10 per 100 view or 1,000 views rather. So it depends on who you talk to. But a source tells All Things D that a frequent complaint is we're just not making enough money. Now, you could say, well, you're making YouTube videos, but again, some of these productions are really high quality, and there are whole businesses being based around this sort of thing. A network like Machinima, Maker Studios, both have a lot of success with YouTube views, but both have been experimenting with other solutions, selling shows via subscription models outside of YouTube or in addition to YouTube. iTunes soundtrack sales to supplement income coming in to pay the content producers that are associated with these networks. And I just sort of wonder, as YouTube keeps growing and growing, when you really are sort of a standout success, is ultimately the answer to get off of YouTube and bring in your own salespeople and, do it on your own. Lance, what do you think?
Yeah, well, I definitely think sales, controlling your own sales force is part of the problem. But I also think there's a fundamental issue with YouTube as a viewing platform for sort of mass consumption. You mentioned the word scalability, and you said, 1 million is considered a hit. Now, a YouTube video on some of these channels might get 1 million views over the course of, say, a week. Contrast this with a hit television show that will have millions of viewers, maybe 3 million viewers, maybe 1 million viewers, but within a half an hour at the same time. At the same time. Advertisers still pay a lot of attention to that. And by the way, advertisers are much more like old media than new media. They get new media, they get social media, but they don't quite get the metrics yet, and they don't quite get the long game. And I think there's some frustration. So, you show these shows to advertisers, and they go, that looks really great and exciting. How many viewers am I going to get? Well, over the course of a week, you'll have 500,000. They're like, what's that? So I think you need to work on the sales side, like how to sell this properly, and how to explain that the engagement level is much higher. And then 2, you have to figure out, how do we get the sort of scalability we're looking for on YouTube videos? And I think part of that really is, when you go to your Blu-ray player or something like that, not just having a place to watch YouTube videos, but make it much more channel-like. So it's like Netflix, for example. Then they might solve the problem.
Wired's got an article today saying that advertisers and viewers are flocking to online video. And I don't think that contradicts anything you're saying, Lance. But I do think YouTube's got a different problem here. And I should disclose my wife works for YouTube here in the Los Angeles area. She doesn't tell me anything, so I don't have any inside knowledge on this story. But the one thing about Peter Kafka's article that struck home with me was the allegation that YouTube sells YouTube videos along with display ads for Google. They have one sales team for everything.
Yeah, it's a broad audience buy rather than a specific video sales force.
And they don't sell shows. And that is what killed podcasting at CNET. When I was at CNET, the big problem we had is that the sales staff was trying to sell podcasts along with selling banner ads for reviews and everything else. And of course, when you don't have that niche play, those podcast numbers look too small to make a difference. And so your sales staff isn't incentivized to sell this stuff. And the advertisers aren't incentivized to care if you include it in their buy or not. And I feel like that may be happening to YouTube videos as well.
I also think part of it's the lack of marketing. And the thing is, how do you know this video is on YouTube? YouTube for discovery is kind of a pain. They've had these things with channels, so it seems like you can find things a little easier because they're all within the same kind of that old style channels like televisions. But you don't know that this thing is running. It's not like you're watching a television, you're watching a TV show in the middle of it. It's like, here's this great new show. It's on YouTube only. Like, that would be really interesting. But you don't see. I mean, how else would you discover this? Just slowly clicking around and hopefully finding the site. That's how you only get 500,000 views in a week. How else would you find this?
That's not wrong, Ayaz, but at the same time, YouTube doesn't have an inventory problem. They actually have too much inventory. So the problem is selling what they've got, although they also have a discovery problem too.
Right, exactly, because I think that's a really important part of it, discovery, easily paging through this content. It's not, you can't, you watch TV at home, you flip through the channels, bang, 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 or you have that guide, right? What way do you have on YouTube to really sort of page through, especially as they move to this sort of channel-oriented structure, which they're not really prepared to do? And you're right, they're not really prepared to sell it properly. I mean, but there's a terror here because, again, it goes back to the numbers. When you talked about the podcast, if you compare podcast numbers to some of the other activities, say that CNET did, and back at my old job, back at Zip, the same thing. We had a podcast and people loved it. But it was a relatively small, devoted audience. So when you take a number that is that small and put it in front of potential advertisers, they don't get it. This is sort of this chasm we have to cross to really get into sort of, the 21st century of this business. And YouTube has the potential, but I agree, they have to change things. They have to take the risk. They have to make a separate sales force. They have to reorganize so that they can present the channel content in a way that makes sense. They have to really move away from the old style YouTube platform. And they have to understand that the wins initially will be pretty small.
Now, there's a new company called Bliss that might have a different way of going about this, Ayaz. Tell us about that.
This is an intriguing startup. They launched a waitlisted beta at the 1st of March. And what this is, Bliss is a movie and TV store where you can rent streaming movies, buy TV episodes, just like iTunes or Xbox. But the payment is the hook. You can pay with a credit card, PayPal, or whatever you earn at Bliss. Here's how this works. You can earn credit towards videos by watching advertising like movie trailers or TV commercials. In what they call the earn mode, there's a sliding scale as to how much you can earn. If you give more information, you earn faster. The more you personalize by giving data like your gender, access to web history, the less ads you have to watch to earn. Now, Bliss has deals with Warner Brothers, Paramount, Universal, Stars, and the VP of Bliss says she's close to getting the other two of the three that are left and hopes to get all 6 of the major studios by the end of the year. Lance, would you give up information just to get somewhat of a free rental?
I'm probably, I'm not so concerned. I'd probably give up a little bit if it was, if I could just give up, I don't care if somebody knows, my gender. I don't care, if they know a couple of things about me that I'm doing. I always worry though, when you agree to something like that, if it ends up being something on your computer that's watching, like, not only is there a concern that it's watching too much, but two, like, what does it do to my computer? But again, it's always the same thing, trying to figure out ways to sort of monetize, to get people to watch commercials again, to get people to pay attention to advertising, because that's really the other thing, is that how often, going back to the other thing, when you're watching a YouTube video, do you click when it says you can stop watching this ad in 3 seconds? You click off it immediately. So here they have to sort of really give you hard incentive to sit there and pay attention to the ad so that you can get free content to watch. And how much of that do you have to watch to get any real valuable free content? So it's, I don't know, it's just another attempt. I mean, I give them credit for trying it out. I don't know if it's going to work.
So there are other sites like Hulu have Ad Tailor where you can change things, you can give personalized information. What you get out of that is still watching the same videos you had before. Would this make you more likely to go to something like Hit Bliss where you could earn credits? Somebody is saying that Jeff N in the chat room is saying you earn $4 in 10 minutes. So you can get a movie within about 15 minutes if you were willing, or a television show within trying these ads.
Yeah, I mean, I watch pretty much any movie trailer, even if it looks like it's going to be a terrible movie. I mean, that's like fun for me. So maybe this, Hit Bliss is made for someone like me. And yeah, after a couple of commercials that I have to sit through and okay, commercials are done. Now I have a free movie. I can see this really appealing to folks who would like to, cut a few corners here and there. But no, I'm not giving Hit Bliss access to my web history. And I'm not even really that, that much of like a privacy, paranoia person. I just, it's like, that's the sort of thing where it's like, it's participating in a survey at the end of the phone call and you get some sort of like a little kickback for doing that. Is it convenient to do so? If so, maybe people will do it. I think otherwise people might say, no, I want to keep my information to myself, pay the $4.
I can see this being a smart incentive. You try out Hit Bliss, you're like, I'll watch some ads, and then eventually you're like, I don't feel like watching ads, but I'll rent from the same place I know. It's kind of like this idea, get a little free and get some pay later on.
Well, yeah, and I've only got, I really don't want to pay that much. I've only got so much in my account. Maybe I'll just watch a couple ads to top it up so it's not as expensive. I mean, I think it's a pretty ingenious way of approaching it. We'll see if it works. We also want to talk about Yola, a Finnish Migo-based phone company.
Yeah, this is a company.
Did I just say all those words together?
And you forgot about their Sailfish OS, which was based on Migo, which is fun to say. Yola is actually made up of, was formed by people that used to work at Nokia back in 2011. They left the company when Nokia was going to go to Windows Phone. They started a new company. It's called Yola. They were at Mobile World Congress. They were talking about their next phone, or their first phone, which should be out around Christmas time and the Chinese New Year. And this phone will launch running Migo, which is now Sailfish OS, and it's going to launch in China and then Finland, with no plans yet discussed about the United States. But the more intriguing things was said by representative of the company, saying that Yola could license its software or help other software companies build their own phones. And he gave an example of working with Foursquare to build a Foursquare phone that bakes in social geolocated data throughout the phone. So like if you looked up your contacts, you could see where your friends are, who they're hanging out with, because you'd have all that experience in one. He also mentioned Deezer. So you could have Deezer's a music company. So you can actually have a bunch of music-related phones. Lance, every time a new mobile OS comes out, everyone asks, are there apps on it? What are the apps for it? If a phone was based on an app and it's app-centric, this one app, would that make a splash in this whole crowded cell phone world?
It's such a stupid idea. Seriously, it's like, first of all, honestly, I don't think there's more room for another platform. And the dumbest idea you could have is to build a phone around one product, one app. Every time I hear about the Facebook phone, I feel the same way. It's like, oh, Facebook's building a phone. Why would Facebook build a phone? Every phone's a Facebook phone. Give me a break. And same thing with Foursquare. All Foursquare has to do is add some additional functionality and hooks into the phone. They have access to those APIs, geolocation. They don't need any of the, hook into your contact database. All it has to do is get permission to do that. What do you need another platform for? They only do that so people will pay attention to them. This is a no-name company with an OS that nobody cares about. It's like, how do I make people pay attention? I know, say Foursquare. I was going to say Facebook, but everybody says Facebook. I cannot get over how stupid this is.
So Lance has no strong opinions about this. How about you, Tom? What do you think about the idea of being like, could this be like a feature phone style thing where you had a Foursquare phone for real cheap and then have a Facebook phone for another and then smartphones for everything else?
Well, I think what they're trying to do is say, look, we're a bunch of disgruntled Nokia folks who really were upset when Migo got torpedoed in favor of Windows Phone. We have a lot of experience. We want to make a great operating system, and we want to figure out any way possible to get someone to adopt it. So whether it's making our own great hardware, which they say they're going to do, and pairing it with the great software, which they say they've already done, or making some kind of custom phone. Hey, they're open, right? They need to take some orders. So if Foursquare wants to come to them or anybody else and say, we need you to make a custom phone for us, they'll do it. I'm not sure that Foursquare or anybody else is going to take them up on that. And the operating system is gorgeous, but they're trying to say like no one has done an operating system like this. And it really looks to me, to my eyes, like a mashup of Windows Phone and BlackBerry OS. And I'm not saying that either one of them is ripping off the other, because Migo's been in development, Sailfish has been in development for a while, so it may just be an example of convergent evolution. But I didn't see much in here that made me, like, my head spin the way WebOS actually did when it first came on the scene back at CES several years ago. That was new. That was a new way of looking at things. Right now, I'm still waiting for somebody to come up with a new metaphor that really turns my head. And I sadly don't think this is it. I'm kind of cheering for these guys, though. I like the underdog OSs.
More competition, the better. I don't know what's going to happen with this, but you got to try.
I just think, I mean, we all pay a lot of attention to apps. Well, okay, I do. And so I've watched, an app, the evolution of an app can change so quickly because users are fickle. It's easy to push out a software update. You can change. I mean, Foursquare, use Foursquare as an example. Foursquare is a very different company than it was last year, and a really different company than it was a couple of years ago, because it's following the market and it's realizing what people are actually using it for. You start baking that in to an operating system that's dependent on hardware, and it gets a lot more complicated to iterate and to be, on top of your game. I'm with Lance. I think that this is, it's the intentions are good, but this isn't going to help anybody.
Go, me, go.
Go away, me, go.
It's all right. We can agree to disagree, me, go. Let's check the calendar very quickly.
Seabit is kicking off in Hanover, Germany tomorrow, March 5th, and it runs through the 9th. If you want more information, go to seabit.de.
Good stuff comes out of Seabit. I'll always find a couple of interesting stories out there. Let's see what's incoming.
Incoming message.
We got a message from Kome. The best use of Chromebook that I can think of is to connect to other computers using VNC or remote desktop. The Chromebook Pixel would be great for it, if not too expensive, because it has better resolutions than the machines you're connecting to, and you can avoid that screen downscaling. However, I cannot find a simple VNC or remote desktop app that I can be satisfied with. All the apps I found require prepping the remote machine in advance or connecting through a third-party website. I have a Chromebook, an earlier model, that I received for free by attending a conference. I often use it at the dining table downstairs, and all I want to do is connect to my main PC upstairs by simply specifying the local IP address and password, just like with VNC. I hope Google and third-party developers will realize that there is a great potential for Chromebook as a thin client very soon. It's a really interesting idea, that the fact that you use Chrome as a window into another operating system.
Well, you can do that with things like Log Me In and GoToMeeting, but he says, I don't want it to be things like Log Me In and GoToMeeting. He wants to run software, and that's the issue with the Chromebook. Lance, you were using a Chromebook right before the show, one of the OG Chromebooks.
Yeah, and it's really good for certain things. I mean, a Chromebook it's great for browsing web, great for email, pretty good for the Google apps because you can obviously docs and drive and all that. And then it sort of always feels a little constricting because it has a desktop now, but it doesn't feel quite as fluid as, say, Windows, which kind of, is really now considered the pioneer in the desktop space, I think. But, it's funny, the whole concept of it as a dumb client, years ago, there was this netbook concept, not the netbooks that we're talking about, but the netbooks that Larry Ellison was planning, where we'd all have dummy terminals again, dummy systems, and then they'd work off a centralized thing. And so it's kind of a retro idea, but who would pay $1,200 for a dummy terminal like that? It doesn't make any sense. And also, by the way, why not get something like a $500 tablet and use Log Me In and access your more powerful desktop somewhere? So there's a lot of better options there. But Chromebook, one other thing I will say about Chromebook, by the way, I'm not a fan of this crazy price, but I did notice the last holiday season, the original Chromebooks, the $250 ones, sold like hotcakes at Best Buy. Like they just could not keep them in there. So I'm really wondering, like, those are the people I'm most interested in. Like, what's their lives like now that they bought this system?
I got another email from Cody who says, I watch a majority of the Twitch shows every week and have been wondering why the only topic that comes up about Google Glass is that once-in-a-lifetime video or social networking extremes. These might be cool things that would be loved by the top 1% and tech lovers, but I feel we're missing how much this would benefit certain people's lives. I myself am studying to be a computer scientist, and something like this would revolutionize how I work. When I'm in the lab, having Siri as a hands-free scientific calculator and reference speeds up my productivity insanely. insanely. In my opinion, it's the first step to having a technological assistant like Tony Stark's Jarvis. I believe Google Glass will also transform the way that we'll take notes. When I find something interesting on the internet that I want to refer to, I can take a screenshot on the iPad, which gives me an error-free page of usable notes. This isn't necessarily as seamless as pulling out the iPhone and taking a quick picture for later reference for the physical world. Being this way, I find myself just skipping that step and later needing to go back or regretting the fact that I didn't care about obsessive documenting.
Well, I'm not sure I quite understood what he was saying there at the end, but I guess what he's saying is is he saying that you have to take the iPhone out of your pocket, that's too cumbersome and he ends up skipping it sometimes?
Yeah, I think he's saying for accuracy, he'd always have the images on his face.
Yeah, and I could definitely see that. Just that sort of, I need to take a quick snapshot of these notes or this result or whatever. It's going to be almost seamless because you got the camera pointing at stuff all the time. That's a good point.
And I do think that one of the things the points he's making is kind of interesting, that Google tends to pitch Google Glass as this sort of, fun, action-oriented thing. Like every video, people jumping out of airplanes, climbing mountains, doing kind of amazing stuff, riding hot air balloons. But obviously, it's going to be sort of every day. Last time I saw somebody wearing one who was at a trade show, just walking around, and that could be actually really cool because you're constantly meeting people. You're seeing vendors. You're seeing products you want to remember. Bits and pieces of information. You're meeting new people who you want to make sure you know who they are. And he did it with me. He's like, I'm taking your picture. And that's kind of more mundane, but that's sort of what people really need to know about it. If Google Glass is going to break through, people have to understand how it's going to transform their everyday lives.
I already heard a phrase coined for people who have Google Glass on but don't tell you they're recording. Glass holes. Serious, I read it on the internet, so it must be true.
Of course.
In any case, you make a very good point, Lance Ulanoff, and you make lots of very good points. Let folks know where they can find all of your very good points and all the things you do online.
Well, of course, at Mashable.com every day. Please check it out. We're going to South by Southwest this week. It's going to be crazy. So we'll be covering that like nonstop, it seems, 24/7. Of course, you can find me there, Lance Ulanoff, at Lance Ulanoff on Twitter. And I have Facebook subscribers, but who cares? No one looks at my stuff on Facebook. And I'm on Google Plus too. No, nobody cares. But yeah, I'm there and everywhere. And I'm Vining like crazy. I love Vine.
Cool. Well, thank you, Lance. Always great to have you on the show. Thanks for being on, man.
It was my pleasure.
You can find our subreddit at technewstoday.reddit.com. Over 14,000 viewers. Can't be wrong. Or can they? You can vote their stories down. You can vote their stories up. You can submit your own stories. It's one of the things we look at when we decide the lineup every day. TechNewsToday.reddit.com. You can also find us on the web, twit.tv/TNT. Email us, TNT@twit.tv. Or give us a call. Leave us a voicemail, 260-TNT-SHOW. Randall Bennett joins us on the show tomorrow. We'll see you then.